Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt Thiessen.
With me today is abundance teacher and money coach, Jody Lynn Craven.
This is your daily dose of happy. We are so happy you decided to join us today.
Hey, Jody Lynn.
Hi.
Have you ever wanted to sail around the world?
That terrifies me, but it sounds so interesting. I think if somebody said, we're going to go sail around the world, do you want to come? I would say yes. Let's do it.
You would?
Yes.
Even though it terrified you? All right.
Even though it terrifies me, I would do it.
Totally. That's cool. I love that. Well, you're going to kind of get your chance today because our guest, Alison Gieschen, and her husband are currently doing exactly that.
That's crazy.
And they're contacting us from their boat. I mean, this is so cool.
Yeah.
This is 21st century conversation. As she was pointing out, when they first started doing this, they couldn't talk to anybody. Now they talk to their family every day because of Starlink. Cool. I mean, it's so cool.
That's so cool. You can take your family with you.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Around the world. So Alison, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's really fun to be able to talk about what life on a boat is like and our challenges.
And tell people where you are right now. That's going to kind of get the whole thing started. Where are you located right now?
Well, when my husband asked me maybe 10 years ago when we started planning all this, where your number one place in the world is when we circumnavigate, my answer was the French Polynesians. And today we are on the island, the Marquesa Islands, and I am on the French Polynesian island of Nuku Hiva.
Cool.
Which you can even pronounce. That's fabulous.
Yes.
All right. So you got to tell us the story. How did all this get started?
Okay. So I grew up on a farm in upstate New York, nowhere near water. And
we're in New York, by the way. I grew up in upstate New York.
Have you ever heard of Rhinebeck or Poughkeepsie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I grew up in Red Hook, which was even smaller than Rhinebeck and Poughkeepsie.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and my dad worked for IBM.
Okay.
And IBM had a big transplant way back when, and everybody got transferred down south, which I was horrified about because my whole world changed, and they didn't like Northerners, so I got made fun of and bullied in school. My refuge became sailing because one of the dads that we were friends with that moved down there, their family moved on Lake Norman, and he started sailboat racing because he was a world champion sunfish sailor. Oh. So fast forward to my parents finally retired, and they moved to New Bern, North Carolina. And my mom, who also loved sailing and grew up on the water, decided she was going to be the fastest skipper on the Pamlico Sound, fastest woman skipper. Mm-hmm. Problem was there were no other woman skippers. She was the only one.
That would shoot her to the top of the list.
Yeah.
Well, she had bigger aspirations. She decided, I'm just going to be the fastest skipper, period.
Okay.
So she got into the racing there, and I was going to school in Charlotte, North Carolina, but every race weekend, man, I drove the 4 hours and crewed for my mom. And then one weekend there was this really big regatta, and she's like, we have to win this. So meanwhile, my cousin who lived in Philadelphia had this really cute available bachelor who worked next to him, a merchant marine and a 3-time national dinghy champion. And he said, hey, Dan, why don't you come down to New Bern and sail on my Aunt Jerry's boat and, help her win this race. So he came down. We spent the 3-day weekend together. We sailed, scuba dived, windsurfed, had this wonderful time. And right before he got ready to leave, we're sitting at a bar saying goodbye. And he says, my dream is to sail around the world someday. I said, mine too. Let's get married. He proposed 4 days later.
What?
Yeah.
No way. And how long have you guys been married now?
39 years.
Oh my goodness. That's epic.
But it took us a while. We didn't get married. His dad actually was a minister, and he married us on the lawn where we got married, where we met at the sailboat race. And but we got married and moved to New Jersey where his job was. He was left over the bridge in Philadelphia, and we built a horse farm and had 3 kids. So we had to wait 25 years before we could, move on and do that.
But you finally did.
We did. Yep. We developed a 5-year plan, and in 5 years, we found our boat, bought our boat, sold our home, moved aboard, and then set sail. And an interesting fact is that there's quite a few people that actually want to do this, and they buy the boats and they prepare, and only 10% actually end up leaving the dock and doing it. Only 10%.
Really? Why is that, do you think?
Because there's just something so scary about leaving everything you've known and heading off around the world with no way to like we have no home. We had nothing to come back to. And they
Right.
keep thinking, well, let's just keep the house. And then they find out how hard it is to maintain a house when you live somewhere else and you can't get there and you can't manage it. And they make so many excuses or say, well, this isn't ready. We left and we were not ready. Our boat was not 100% ready. But if we waited until our boat was 100% ready, we would have never left.
Wow. So how did you manage those last few steps then if the boat wasn't quite ready?
We went anyway.
Wow.
No, you go anyway. There's not, you can always fix something, repair something, make something better. But if you try to do that, it will never happen because boats are just a constant series of when something's going to break, not if, but when. And we have been in 5 countries, we've been in 57 countries, but 5 different countries for 3 months or more waiting for boat parts.
So this is where we can really underline the idea that it's very useful to have married a merchant marineman.
Yes.
Yeah. He saved our butt so many times. We've been sinking twice and he saved us.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. It's terrifying.
I know.
I'm sure you know. You were there.
I was.
Yeah.
Crying.
Were you sinking like in a shallower area? Or were you in the middle of the ocean?
No. Once was in the Mediterranean and once was on the coast of on the coast of the east coast of the U.S.
Oh my gosh. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
One of the themes that plays out a lot here on the show. Now, I can't say that this has included people sailing around the world. You're the first guest who falls into that category. But one thing that does play out often is how people find themselves in all kinds of really unusual situations dealing with highly traumatic problems. They come out the other side and they're stronger for it. And it happens enough times and it just becomes old hat. Now, I don't know if I dare ask this, but is it old hat yet?
I thought it was because there's stories within stories within stories, obviously, of this journey. But to skip ahead, our first Atlantic crossing was horrible. It was so bad we got caught in a storm with 20-foot waves crashing on our boat and $14,000 worth of damage. And we had to turn around and go back to shore. We did 800 miles and ended up 20 miles from where we started. That was our very first ocean crossing. And I had a lot of PTSD from that and mostly overcame that. And we had a few other serious things happen. And then after one of them, when we had arrived back at the mainland of Spain at 3 a.m. in the dark and lowered our anchor and here could the waves crashing. If the anchor drug at all, we would have crashed on the shore. But we couldn't see anything. There was no moonlight, nothing. So we went to bed exhausted and we woke up the next morning and our mainsail was ripped and we needed to have the whole mast taken off the boat to repair everything. So we had to get to a city and a marina. And so the sun came up, we pulled up anchor, we had to turn our engine on and motor, like 4 hours to get to Lagos. And I'm sitting back there and I've got my fishing line out and the sun is shining and I'm looking around how absolutely beautiful this world is around me and everything that we had just been through in the past 24 hours. And I just had this epiphany. I'm like, you know what? That stuff happens. We get through it. And I'm still here in this beautiful place, still able to move forward. And one of the luckiest people on the planet. And it just hit me. It doesn't matter. The crises really don't matter. It's the beauty and the experience. And I can't explain it other than it was just an epiphany. And my husband looks back at me and I got this big grin on my face. And he's like, why are you smiling? I'm like, I had an epiphany.
Well, and the epiphany really is a recognition of the beauty of the dream realized, because this was a dream that both of you had before you'd even met. You were realizing the dream, and you went through what we all go through whenever we have any kind of journey, especially one that leads to a desired goal, or even if it doesn't lead to a desired goal. But at the end of it, we get to experience at least part or all, in your case, all of that desired goal. And it's almost like going through those experiences made it more beautiful.
It's the pain of childbirth. You have a baby, it's terrible, but you forget about that when you hold a baby in your arms. I've had several babies, so I know that well. And it's very similar to that. You're in pain, you're scared, it's miserable, but it's quickly forgotten. And my favorite part, if somebody asked me, what's your favorite part of sailing around the world? and it happens almost daily. I walk out up into that cockpit and I look around me and I go, today I live here, and it's these places are breathtaking. Like, you just cannot find more beautiful places on the planet than we have been to.
How has it changed your perspective about the planet compared to when you first started?
It's a lot bigger than I thought it was. Let me tell you.
Mm.
4 weeks at sea, crossing the Pacific. It was a long time. That was our longest crossing to date, and it was ridden with the worst passage we've had to date, which
Wow.
made it even longer. But it's a slow way to get anywhere. Go find 5 miles an hour around the world, roughly. It's a long way to get places, but a lot of people enjoy passages. There's a time out in the ocean because, you have beautiful days where you're looking out on the water and you just got this endless horizon, and you've got dolphins that visit you and whales jumping and sea creatures and birds, blue-footed boobies landing on your deck. And, it's really magical, and it's not something many people get to experience. And some people love the passages. I'm not a huge fan. I do enjoy the moments, but I love the locations, and I love pulling into a new country or a new place for the first time. And I just get so excited, and I'm like, oh my God, we're here. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's different people have different affinities, and mine is getting there.
And I'm also curious to know what kind of growth have you gone through in this? Because inevitably you're going through growth when you experience something, especially something as dramatic as what you're doing. But talk about some of that.
Okay, well, before we left, we went to boat shows all over the country, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, and we listened to people who have done this. And you hear their wisdom, and you hear their stories, and you hear their experiences, but you really can't internalize it until you've done it. But one of the speakers, named John Kretschmer, had written 5 books, was a delivery boat captain, and he was giving a seminar on sailing in storms, which is one of my biggest fears. And he said at the end of a seminar, I do a heavy weather training passage where you get on my boat and you go 1,000 miles in the trade winds with big seas and rough weather. And after you've done that 1,000 miles, you'll know what it's like to sail. And my husband had crossed the ocean on merchant ships, so he knew what it was like to be on the sea. And I'm like, Dan, this is a need. This is not a want. I have to do this. I've got to know I can do this. So I went on this heavy weather training passage, did my 1,000 miles, and I loved it. I'm like, oh my gosh, we can so do this. So we buy our boat, and we had that first experience trying to cross the Atlantic, which was horrible. And I started getting PTSD. So every time we started crossing, I would get anxiety. I would start panicking. I would be upset. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. So we finally get to cross our first ocean to the Caribbean, and we arrive in St. Martin. And I kept waking up every morning thinking about the big crossing that we'd have next to get to Europe. And I kept thinking, today's the day I'm going to tell him. He's got to get crew or something. I'll meet him there, but I can't do this. I just too much anxiety. It's not worth it. So we anchor our boat, and there's 100 boats in the harbor, and every boat has something called AIS, which identifies you, says what the name of your boat is and where you are. 3 boats away was John Kretschmer, the man that I did my 1,000-mile training passage with. So we call him on the radio and say, John, it's Dan and Alison. We're here. We're on our boat. We bought our boat. We're sailing around the world. And he goes, well, come on over for happy hour. So we go over to his boat, and there's a bunch of people there, and they're all talking. And finally he looks over to me and he goes, so Alison, how's it going? And I start tearing up. I'm like, oh my God, John, we had this terrible passage. Our first passage, we almost, our boat, 14,000 worth of damage, and it was horrible seas, and I'm terrified now. And he starts laughing. I'm like, what? Why are you laughing at me? And he goes, do you know how lucky you are? And I'm like, no. And he said, your boat did fine. Your husband did fine. You're still out there sailing. And the chances of that ever happening again are like 0. Because you know how many people that happens to? They sell their boat and they never get on it again. They give up. He goes, you're still here. You just crossed an ocean, and you are going to be fine. And it was the only human being on the planet that could have looked at me in the eyes and told me that, and I would have believed him because he was my mentor and my hero. And he made all that anxiety go away. And we crossed the ocean. We got to the Bermuda, the Azores, and Ireland, and it was magical. And I'm like, he was right. Like, and yes, we've had bad things happen since then, but there's always going to be bad things, but I'm learning to deal with them better.
Okay, Jody Lynn. So for the first 15 minutes of the show, at the very beginning, you said that if you were asked, you'd be terrified, but if you were asked, you would do it. are you still on that side of things?
Yes. And
Wow.
I would be crapping my pants. Like, you talk about not being able to see land. That's like the thing that makes me comfortable. Not that I'm a strong swimmer by any stretch of the means. I can swim okay, but I've never really swam in the ocean like that. But if I can see land in my mind, I'm like, all right, if I'm going to land,
Get there.
I can get there. It's when you can't see land anymore that I'm like, oh gosh, okay. But you know what? I was thinking about if I was in your spot in those moments, at least I'm dying somewhere beautiful. Like, you know what? If this is my time to go, I guess this is my time to go, because there's really nothing that you can do. You can't touch bottom, you can't see land.
No.
Like,
Well, you do have things you can do. You have emergency life rafts that you can get in and have like 3 days supply of food. We have an e-perp that sends a signal as soon as we take that off the wall and hit it. So anybody, people on land are going to get that signal, go, hey, this is a distress signal. We got to go rescue these people. So the number of people that die crossing oceans is far, far, far less than death in any other realm of life. Automobile accidents, plane crashes, falling. I don't know. It's the lowest death rate there is in just about anything.
wow.
Which actually makes
So,
sense.
I'd still do
people
it.
They don't die crossing oceans. You're more likely to die in a marina than you are crossing an ocean.
Yeah. You would just find me huddled up somewhere inside, just crying, just shaking back and forth. Please get us there. That would be me. I'd be useless.
I've done that.
I'm impressed that you're adventurous enough that you'd even consider doing it, Jody Lynn.
Well, I feel like I have a reputation that I need to uphold,
Oh.
Like, I am.
So this is an ego thing.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, an ego / adrenaline junkie thing. Like, I think you know that about me. I used to race horses. So I don't have a lot of fear with things. I have more fear now that I'm older than, I was back then doing those things. Like, I know that I'm more breakable today. But yeah, I think that, like, I can't race horses and be like a crazy horse lady and then be given an opportunity to sail around the world and be like, no, I'm scared. No, can't do it.
My best friend was a jockey, by the way.
Cool. Yeah.
I got several racehorses off the track on my farm. I had them through the years.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. See? Yeah. I just think you got to take the opportunity when it comes. And I try not to let fear ever stand in my way. I mean, it doesn't always happen that way. Of course, I'm afraid of things, but I think I would kick myself and regret it if I wouldn't take the opportunity if it was given.
I recommend trying it. And you don't have to do the whole world. You could do just a passage somewhere, Yeah.
I think I might miss land.
No, I don't think you would. I'm serious. Once you're out there and you get embodied in the magic of where you are, and the journey, it takes over. The journey takes over, and that other stuff goes away. And I'm not saying there aren't tenuous times when you're in rough weather or something is going wrong, but if it's a nice weather passage, there's nothing more magical on the planet.
Yeah. Well, I think it does sound magical being around, the water, just the rhythm of the world, untainted, all the, wildlife that you're going to see and the birds. Like, you're going to see some stuff that a lot of people will never see in their entire lives, even if they're looking.
And what I keep thinking about is all the people who did this before modern technology.
Right.
Every explorer that went to new continents, and every person that went from Europe to the US or to all these islands, they were on boats that had half the capability and none of the electronics.
Yeah.
And they all made it, or most of them. I mean, all of the shipwrecks were when they got close to land, and they, the shipwrecks with the galleon and the treasures that people, discover, they're all on land. They're not in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah. Wow. I think it'd be awesome. Yeah.
Because for myself, there's absolutely no way I'd be interested in doing this. Not even slightly. And I can actually tell you the one thing that I'm even less likely to do and less interested in doing than this. and that's climbing onto a rocket that goes to Mars.
Okay,
But
I'm not interested in that either.
But I do know there are people who crave that experience. And personally, I think they're nuts. But on the other hand, I kind of get it, because you can develop a lot of reasons why it's important from your perspective to make such a journey like that, to establish a beachhead on another planet. I can get that. I just don't want to do it myself. I have no interest. So if I had to compare the two, okay, traveling across the ocean, I like that a little bit more, but not a whole lot.
Definitely.
I like the idea of the challenge of solitude, because even though you have different technology today and you have Starlink and you're talking to us and whatever, I think for me it would be the opportunity to be in stillness and silence in a way that we don't often get. And I think that would be really difficult, because there is nothing. Like, you put your phone away and look around. Like that's pretty much it. And it's magical being able to do that and to be present in like such depth of presence. I think that's why I'd want to go.
And I've met solo sailors, and they are the most impressive people I've ever met. I met a man who went around the world 7 times solo.
Wow.
7 times. And I asked him, and I had to have him on my boat for dinner. I'm like, you got to come over and tell me your stories, because I can't fathom this. And I go, what do? You have nobody to talk to. He goes, well, I talk to my starboard winch. It's the big thing you crank to bring in the sails. He goes, I put a hat on it and I have a conversation with it. And he goes, do you know why I don't?
Yeah.
You know why I don't talk to the port winch? I'm like, no. Why? He goes, because it doesn't talk back. So I'm like, okay, you talk all day to that starboard winch. That's great. But and then yesterday, you're in a community of sailboats anchored in this harbor, and people have dinghies to get back and forth to shore. And this man comes up and he knocks on my dinghy, and he's like on our boat, and we go out and say hi, and he introduces himself. He goes, yeah, I just wanted to come say hi and invite you over tomorrow for happy hour, and my name is such and such. And he is 80 years old. And he's on a boat twice our size. And he's solo sailed that boat around the world by himself. And yesterday I listened to his stories, and he has been through far more than we have. I mean, far more. And he's 80 years old and out there still doing it. I mean, he said, I'm going to just do this until I die. He's finally sold his place that he had. He has nowhere else on land. He goes, I will sail until I die. Wow. That's how much he loves it. And that kind of thing really inspires me, because it makes me feel really wimpy. I mean, I got a merchant marine that can handle the boat without me just fine. And, there's really no reason for me to have anxiety, because if this man can do it and that other guy can do it 7 times, we're nothing spectacular in this environment, in this culture of people that we meet.
I'm getting the sense that there's a competitive side to this.
No. Yeah, there is.
Of course.
I gotta do it, gosh darn it. I am not gonna back down now. I'm not gonna, let an 80-year-old man get around the world and me not do it. Come on.
Exactly. How could you? Now you have to go. Well, you just need to meet this 80-year-old man, and then maybe you'll be like, I need to go sail around the world.
My reaction would be, how long you want to wait?
Well, he doesn't have that long, so.
That's right. Wow.
The whole storyline illustrates a few really important points. First and foremost, I mean, for you guys, especially for you, Alison, but also apparently for Jody Lynn as well, doing this kind of thing would be a really big deal for you. It'd be very, very important, very, a very large part of how you want your life to go. For me, it's just the opposite. It's not how I want my life to go. How cool is that? We live in a world where we can have completely divergent desires. One person loves it, the other person hates it, and it works.
Yeah.
I love that.
And you can have both all day long.
Yeah, if you really, well, I can kind of imagine you trying to have both. I mean, you're a farm girl already.
Yeah.
You had that experience, right? You're having it right now. I can just as easily see you decide at some point, you and Nate decide to go off by a sailboat and you're sailing the world. So you're doing that. I can see that. That would fit. It would make some sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to have anything to do with what I want to do with my life, which is so cool.
Yeah.
That's the beauty part.
It is. It really is. It's one of the most important. Now we don't talk tons and tons about law of attraction anymore. We used to. I mean, 2,000 episodes later, you kind of feel like you've talked it out. But one thought that does come through is, it really doesn't matter what it is that you want to do with your life. The main thing is, how do you feel about what's going on? How do you experience it? What's your emotional reaction? What's your physical reaction? What's your mental reaction? How do you respond to all the things that happen in your life? Mm-hmm. And if you're responding well, you're going to get a good result and a good experience no matter what it is.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a recurring theme, which I mentioned in my books, that we're always exactly where we are when we are meant to be there. Mm. And I cannot tell you the reoccurring theme of us having miraculous things happen to us when we least expected them, and it all centered around us being somewhere when we needed to be there at the right time. So,
so tell us more about the books. This is a good time to bring the books in. I mean, you have 2 books, parts 1 and 2 of Riding the Waves Reality. But tell us about where that came from, and there's also a children's book in there too.
Yes, I have like 6 or 7 books published. I just
6 or 7.
Count
wow.
When so do you write
them? I mean, you're out in the ocean all the time.
Well, I got all the time in the world. I have a computer. I can sit down and write all the time.
Okay.
I'm a huge travel blogger, so I have like a blog post with all my fiction. I'm a big photographer, so I do the photos and the
oh my gosh, we're gonna have to drop that in the link too, so that we can go see all your photos.
Yeah.
So anyway, what was your original question? I'm sorry.
Well, I was asking about the books. Tell us about the books that you've written.
Okay, so the first, Riding the Waves of Reality, is the whole process of us buying the boat, selling our house, getting on board, and getting to our first ocean crossing. And then the second book is about the Mediterranean, and it's called Mediterranean Mayhem and Mediterranean. What is it, Dan? Mayhem and Magic. It's just now getting published. Mayhem and Magic, and there was a lot of mayhem, but a lot of magic. And we went in and saw, all the countries inside the Med and Africa, 3 different places in Africa, into the Canary Islands, into Cape Verde, and then across the Atlantic. And that's where that book ends. And then I'll be starting the 3rd book. So it just chronicles our adventures, our journey. And then I wrote a fictional book called The 7, but it's based on 7 humans from around the globe, from 7 different cultures and 7 different places, which I have a personal connection either to the character or the location. And so it's filled with facts, details, and history. It's like all based on fact. And I did a lot of research on those books. And I really love that book just because of all the personal connections to all the characters. And then my children's book, Seanna, while it's fictional, it's a mermaid. Although some people say there are mermaids, I'm not a true believer. Done a lot of scuba diving. I have not seen one yet. All of the facts about the sea creatures and the ocean life and ocean conservation are all built in. So as the kids are reading, they're learning a lot. And there's a glossary in the back with real photos of every sea creature mentioned and facts about them. And as a former teacher, of course, I have teacher manuals to go with my fiction books, so they can be used in school curriculums.
That's so cool.
They sound like labors of love, to be honest.
They are. I love writing. I love writing even more than I love talking, and you can see how much I talk.
It's a good thing.
Well, that's right. You gave us kind of a gradient, a scale to so now we can measure. That's helpful. Thank you. That's very appreciated. So you've got the 3 books under the Riding the Waves of Reality, and the children's book. And there was the fiction book. Is that the whole collection? Or I thought you said there were 6 or 7, so that's what I'm kind of.
Yes, I have 2 other children's book and a nonfiction that I published before I left.
Oh, okay. All right.
So there'll be 3 Riding the Waves books, and then Seanna, I have already the sequel written about a boy mermaid, because you need a girl mermaid and a boy mermaid to.
Okay.
So that one's already written. I've got a lot more publishing to do, and I just got hired to be a ghostwriter for a horse book, a new equestrian way of riding. So I spent a lot of time on the computer, even though I live on a boat.
Well, it occurred to me that's the other thing that I should be connecting between the two of you, because Jody Lynn also has horses on her farm, and that's like a similarity between the two of you.
Yes,
So,
it is.
Jody Lynn, what's your question? I'm not even going to try to ask the question there. What to you is the thing that you want to know most about regarding her relationship with the horses?
Oh my gosh. Well, I want to know more about the story of like you guys. You had a farm and you had horses, and like we have a farm, we have horses and we have a garden and all of these things, very physical location items. How do you go from that to like how? I guess this is a two-part question. Number one, you said that the dream of like traveling around the world via sailboat was delayed as you and your husband created a family and you had this farm and everything like that. And how did that satiate your dream or keep your dreams going? And then how did that transition work, like from having things to do on the farm every day and like having a physical location like that you have to be at? It's such a different even mindset of not having animals to take care of, people to take care of, like water to run, like all of the things that a farm involves. Like how did you even go from one to the other?
Well, I want you to know that I petitioned to have one chicken and one goat on my boat because I had dwarf Nigerian goats that I milked and made my own cheese and yogurt, and I had my fresh eggs. I'm like, Dan, I need one chicken and one goat, and we'll be fine. I have eggs and milk every day. And he's like, no chickens, no goats. So, anyway, so and we named our boat Equus, which is Latin for horse. So she's my sea pony, and our spinnaker was that great big ballooning sail that goes out front. I have a giant horse head on there. So every time we put our spinnaker up, my sea pony is pulling us across the ocean. So I keep the horses in my heart.
Yeah.
But the transition was just chopping off our old life. I mean, we were so involved with horses. I went to 2 World Equestrian Games. I don't know if you've heard of the sport of equestrian vaulting, the gymnastics on horses. Yeah. So I was an eventer growing up, and then I found the world of vaulting, and there were no teams anywhere near me. So I started ground up and learned a whole new sport, and ended up my daughter taking 8th in the world in pas de deux and going to 2 World Equestrian Games. So that was so competitive, and plus I was a teacher. So during the summer I did, all my vaulting camps and that kind of stuff. And it was a lot of work for 25 years, and I was ready. I was ready to do what I'd always dreamed about. And my kids still have animals and horses and chickens, and they do their thing, and I can go back and visit it whenever I want. We go riding in different countries. New Zealand is next. You should come join us because we're going to do a horseback ride through all the countryside of New Zealand where they filmed The Hobbit and the Game of Thrones and all those movies, and eat the food and sleep in beautiful places. So we've ridden across Scotland. We've ridden 100 miles through Ireland. And now we're going to ride through New Zealand. So I get to see horses and be around horses still. And it's just a mindset that we've traded one responsibility for a new responsibility, and it opens new doors and new experiences.
Wow.
It doesn't sound like traumatic. It sounds like it was a fairly easy transition. I mean, it sounds like it would be really hard, but it sounds like it was easy.
Well, I make it sound easy, but you don't want to dwell on that. You want to dwell on the fact that, yes, we did it, and it wasn't easy, but we don't ever look back or regret a moment of it. I mean, we had amazing life on our farm. I mean, just like you, I had my organic gardens and my eggs and my milk and pigs and turkeys and chickens and everything, and wonderful dogs and cats and lots of kids around to enjoy it, because it wasn't just my children. It was all the kids who came to my house to ride thought I was their mother. So I had 10, 15 people in the house at all times. It was wonderful. And now it's solitude and no animals, but we have all of nature to enjoy.
Wow.
That's a pretty big shift. That's a transition right there. Just that piece more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think there's something there with that competitiveness or that competition, or maybe it's the extreme sports kind of thing. Like I feel that with my background and why I'd be open to doing something like sailing around the world. And then now it makes sense, you were competitive in the horse arena as well, and like doing extreme sports.
My husband didn't ride when I married him, and I gave him a horse for a wedding present. And he goes like, "What do I do with this?" I'm like, "Well, you ride it." And he goes, Well, this is boring, but he loved ice hockey. So I said,
okay.
you have to try polo. Polo is ice hockey on horseback. You have a stick, you have a ball, you have teammates. He's like, all right. So he basically learned how to ride and play polo at the same time, and he became obsessed. And he played polo all over the East Coast and was the best in the area. And I became a polo umpire because we couldn't afford to have two of us play polo. So I got to run up and down the field and blow whistles on him, give him penalties. Didn't go over well all the time. Some heated arguments on the trailer on the way home, on the truck on the way home. But so he's competitive as well.
That leads to an interesting question. How does all of this play with a relationship? I mean, everybody has, anyone who has a primary relationship knows that their relationship is just their relationship. And we kind of all assume that they're all alike, but they're not. They're all different. They all have their own strengths, their own weaknesses, their own ways that they play and so forth. I would think there'd be a lot of stresses on the relationship you have with your husband, given all that you've gone through, and yet you've gone through it together. So what do you attribute that to?
I've attributed to having a much stronger relationship than we ever had on land, because there's no out here. There's no backing out. I depend on him for survival, and we depend on each other for company, and he's entertaining and wonderful, and I appreciate that so much. I mean, and it's funny because even when we go home now and we're with our kids, like if he goes off and does something with the boys, with my adult sons, I get jealous. I'm like, no, he's supposed to be with me. You know, like I miss him if he's out of my sight, and we never had that kind of relationship on land. But we have to be very careful of one's feelings and emotions, and we just know how important it is to have this strong bond, and we've enveloped it and embraced it, and it's magical, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah, you have a high level of appreciation for it, is what it sounds like to me.
For each other.
Yeah.
For what we each bring to this, because he can't cook. He'd starve to death without me. And I can't fix anything. So, no, it works.
It's perfect.
I believe they call that a division of labor. Got it. Yeah.
Unequitable, though.
Unequitable?
He could sail without me. That's not true. I could not sail without him.
Okay. So you're saying that you have the better side. You're the better end of the deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. And that's actually surprising that your relationship got better. Like, not that it was bad in any way before when you guys were on land, but it got better. You know, I think that being thrown into a tin can with no one else around, like for weeks on end and almost dying the first time that you went out. Well, not dying, but maybe I'm being a little, exaggerating a little, but it was very traumatic, obviously, whatever happened on that first ocean crossing when you guys had to come back, and you didn't kill each other, and you still came together, and things got better. It sounds like your relationship really blossomed, if that's the word we want to use, even more so in the ocean.
Yes, it definitely was an evolution process, but forced by necessity. And a lot of people, I cannot tell you how many single males I have met out here. And one of them actually tried to buy me from Dan because his wife left him a week after they sold everything and bought the boat, like a week on the boat. He left. He had 2 PhDs. He was a PhD in psychiatry and a medical doctor, and his wife left him. And then I felt bad, and I brought him over for dinner, and I cooked him this really great dinner. And he's like, looking at my husband going, would you consider selling her? I got money. I'll buy her. It's like, no, sorry.
Can't afford her. Wow.
It does illustrate the thought that I had, though, because it's either going to strengthen your relationship or it's going to break it. That's pretty much what we've.
That was my point. That was my point. And I see a lot of male that do not have wives, that have divorced males out here sailing. Like I have 3 or 4 friends that I feed whenever I see them in the harbor because they love to come over and have somebody cook for them. But they have to find crew everywhere they go because they don't want to sail across oceans alone, but they don't have any women that are willing to do it.
Yeah. So what do you think?
For all you for all the wannabe sailor women out there, there are a ton of eligible men.
Okay, well that leads to the other question then. If for the women who are in that category, how do they find them?
You go on sailing websites, and there's also crew websites that if you want a crew for somebody, you go in and it gives the bio of the person looking for crew, and you find the ones that are eligible bachelors that have a good profile picture.
See, that's the creative thing. I mean, I really believe that modern technology offers opportunities. And for somebody who's single, I'm actually recently single. I was divorced 3 years ago. And when you're first thrust into the modern scene, you're faced with dating apps, which is probably the worst way to possibly go. But one of the things that the modern internet gives us is the opportunity to be creative about how to find people, how to reach people, and how to meet them in person, which is much better than trying to do it through an app. So, you know, what you basically illustrated right there is, okay, somebody who has an interest in sailing, here's how you can find somebody. That's why I asked the question, because you have to know what the creative ways are if you don't know what they are through your own thought process. You got to find out from something.
And these men that I know and I've developed friendships with are really nice guys. Like they're wonderful people, and I enjoy being around them, and there's nothing about them that I can see distasteful or why somebody wouldn't want to be with them. But just the pool of women that want to do this is so small that if you find somebody, you're really lucky as far as a man. And women, it's an open market.
What do you think it is that separates the women who don't want to do it from the women who do want to do it?
Well, I think if somebody has a partner who does want to do it and they're on the fence about it, and then they go try it and they have a bad experience like I did, then they just give up and they walk away. They don't have the desire. They're just giving it a shot and then backing out and saying, I can't do this. And all of the couples that we're friends with that sail, the marriages are like ours. They are rock solid, and those people work together. I mean, you know, if you're going to do that, that used to be that show Survivor, where they put, you know, a couple on an island. I guarantee you every single sailing couple out there would kick butt in that show, because we just look at each other and we're on the same thought process, and we know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and make it work. And it's incredible.
Maybe this should be like a prerequisite to marriage, is like, you got to go sail for.
Nobody would get married. It'd be 80% non-go before you even started.
I think that it's such a beautiful thing that you work so well with your husband and that you brought up those things. I think that's what I love about my husband and our relationship together, and especially our farm, is there's things that he can do that I can't do because he's much stronger than I am. And, you know, he's an electrician, so he can do different, you know, things like that, or like construction stuff. Like I can put up a fence for the horses, but you're not really going to like it. It's going to work though. It's fine. But that's what I love about our relationship, is coming together and having that other person that you're working with. So I could definitely see how being on a boat, that would really test that and strengthen that skill, which I think is so key in a marriage.
I definitely agree that farm life is probably the second most rigorous thing to sailing, because it has many similarities. The horses getting out in the middle of the night, and, you know, the kind of crisis that happens, and breaking through fences, and just all the chaos that goes on. And it definitely has a similarity to it.
Absolutely.
The thing that jumps out to me about the difference between, I'm going back to the whole thing about women in sailing, and the dearth of women, the number of men who end up getting divorced because their wives don't want to go through the experience after starting it, or maybe before starting it. But there's one factor that kind of jumps out at me, and it's one that you emphasized right from the beginning. It was a dream of yours. It wasn't just a dream of his. It was a dream of yours. You were following a passion. And I'm going
to tell you a very strange story, and I haven't told this to anybody else that I know of, but when I was maybe 9 years old, and I was walking barefoot through the grass, and I can remember this like a vision or a dream. But I'm walking barefoot on this 100-acre farm. There's no human beings anywhere. Just, you know, gorgeous place, upstate New York. And all of a sudden, I had this vision that was as clear as a movie about being on a boat and sailing across the water, and the coolest feeling of flying across the water, being driven with the sails. And I thought, oh my gosh, I want to sail around the world someday. And I can even remember going in the house and telling my mom, I want to learn how to sail someday. And she's like, okay, honey, whatever. You know, and she didn't ask me why or whatever. But I had this And it came out of the blue because I wasn't thinking about water or sailing. And I just had this vision of being on a boat and the beauty and the power of sailing across the water. And then sailing came into my life, and I kind of forgot about that as a child, that experience as a child. But when I think about it now, I can feel the grass. I can see everything exactly as it was on that day. It's like just etched in my memory.
Yeah, that's a beautiful description of how a passion feels and looks and seems when you have it.
Right.
And like you said, it starts with a dream. It starts with some sort of a video image or something that you create in your mind that gets you excited, and you think, wow, that would be really, really cool. That's the beginning point of the passion. And then over time, you give more attention to it. And like anything else, you give attention to it, you're going to give it more energy. And as you give it more energy, it's going to grow and grow and grow. That's how you build a passion. I think passion is really the key here. That passion is the reason why you stayed in it.
The law of attraction that you were talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, I had this dream, and every time something came up about sailing, I pursued it, whether I thought it was something that I would do one day or it wasn't. I was driven towards it, and I was driven and driven and driven. And the fact that I was driven together with a stranger who shared that dream, and he was willing to say, come with me, let's do this. I mean, that's, kind of has to be fate involved there somehow.
Totally.
Well, that's another interesting question, because one thing that challenges a lot of people, this actually challenged me up until roughly around the time I started this podcast, is when I started the podcast, if you had asked me what my passion in life was, I couldn't tell you. And that was at age 55. So first 55 years of my life, I had no idea what my passion was. A lot of people fall into that category. And if the question comes to you and you say, okay, well, what is my passion? I don't have a passion. I need a passion. What am I going to do? First of all, it's terrifying because you don't have one by that point. And second of all, you're not really sure how to go about getting one. I remember literally asking people, how do you develop a passion? And people would stumble all over the place and try to give me answers. And, some of the answers were a little bit better than others and so forth. But that was the thing for a while. So that's my long-winded way of saying, if for you, your passion came pretty easily, but if you didn't have it, how would you go about finding it?
Mm-hmm.
Because in the back of everybody's mind is something that they love, something that inspires them. Like, there has to be. And you've got to take that thread and you've got to follow it. And you have to kind of, if it's not drawing you, you've got to go towards it. You've got to see that light and say, okay, I think about this, I dream about this, I know that I like this, and then just find ways to make it happen.
Does that
even
fit
if
for
they
you,
seem
Jody
impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry?
I was asking Jody Lynn if that fits for her.
Yeah, I think so. I think exactly what Alison was saying is that somewhere deep inside, there's a spark there. But I think we often get into our heads and think, oh, well, like if I look back when I was a kid or whatever, and some of the dreams that I had of like working with horses or whatever, oh, I can't do that. I can't make money at that. How am I going to sustain a life or be successful? And I think we get all these other barriers that get in the way that completely extinguish the flame. Whereas what Alison was saying, you pull on that string and keep going in that direction, whether the steps make sense or even logical in any way. They don't have to be. I think that's the magic of the universe, of the world that we live in. Alison, you were saying that earlier too, of the most magical things have happened. We were just in the right place at the right time. Like, it's all happening for us. I really believe that, but I think it takes that courage to take a step, even when it feels like it's really not, it's not getting me closer to where I want to go in this direction, but that it's a small step towards stepping towards that thing that you're passionate about. And it opens up the door. And I think billions of possibilities emerge.
You hit the nail on the head. You really did.
Thank you. Yeah. That's how I see it.
So you didn't even need me. You could have just interviewed her today and you'd have been great.
No, then we wouldn't have found out about all these crazy adventures on the sea. Like, I'm still baffled that you guys are doing this. I think it's one of the coolest things I know people do it, but I've never met anybody that is currently on a frickin' boat and is traveling the world this way. Like, I'm just thinking, I think me and my husband could do this. But like, I don't even, it's just so far out there. I could see why a lot of people never make it past.
It's a big jump.
Yeah.
It's a big jump. You have to be committed. It's not something you can do halfway. It's not something you can do if you have reservations. You have to make that commitment, and you literally have to step off the edge of that cliff and know that you're never going back to the top.
Yeah. Well, what a ride.
It reminds me of a conversation that we had with another guest recently talking about bungee jumping and the fear associated with doing a bungee jump. And she also talked about, how they went through a company that provides the service, and the guy who was up there helping people take their step apparently was very skilled at this. He had a lot of experience with it. And so when it was her time, he didn't talk with her. He didn't ask her if he was ready. He just said, okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. And she found herself running off the edge.
Wow.
He didn't give her any time to think about it at all. Just go do it. Just jump right into it, which was probably the smartest thing he could have done. But it's the same basic idea, not taking the time to fear something, just taking the step anyway, as kind of a leap of faith. It's a lot
commitment.
to do.
It's important. It really is.
Yeah.
You got to devote your life to something and be committed to it, because if you go into it half-assed, it's not going to happen.
I love that.
I'm hoping that this has gotten a lot of people thinking, not necessarily perhaps about sailing around the world, but whatever their equivalent is.
Exactly.
Because, going back to the question of, what does it take in order to find a passion? Well, I think you kind of outlined it. You have a dream that happened at some point, and did you revisit it? Did you keep going back?
Did you ever go back and think about it? Right. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just crazy in my mind how this all worked. I'm still baffled by it, to be honest. But like, when you're making me construct it and go back and look at it, it's pretty incredible, even living it.
Kind of hard to explain. Like, well, we just did it. I'm curious. Do you like hearing from people who are also interested in it and wanting to, get a pep talk or get some ideas or ask some questions and so forth?
I don't hear from a lot of people asking me questions. I have all kinds of social media pages. I do Instagram and Facebook, and I don't know.
What's the usual response? I mean, I know you're going to get responses of some kind. What's the usual kind of response?
People just usually comment on how beautiful everything looks, and that's a wonderful place you're in, and but they never ask questions. How do I undertake this life? Okay. I mean, someday I would like to do what we saw people doing, and go to boat shows and give talks, because I think a lot of people left out things that were important. That would have benefited us to know. They just wanted to paint a rosy picture of everything. I don't think there's enough people out there saying this is tough and this is going to happen and it is not going to be fun. And if you're not prepared for it, don't do it. I never had anybody tell me that. And I probably went to 40 or 50 different, talks on sailing around the world, and nobody ever said that to me. They just said, oh yeah, this is what you have to do. And and I would like to be one of those realistic people that says, yes, it's 100% worth it, but you need to be prepared, and this is what's going to happen, because I can interview any of the dozen people that are out here, and they will all say, exactly, she's on spot. This will happen to you. It's not if, it's when. So I want to be the if-when person.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's also keep in mind, I mean, you mentioned people like to comment on how beautiful the pictures are and so forth. There are probably people listening who also want to take a look at those pictures. So let's tell them, how do they find your stuff?
Okay, so my Facebook page, Alison, my maiden name is Gieschen. I guess at some point I should probably get up to date and change that. But Alison Gieschen is my personal Facebook page, and I have over 1,000 followers on that, right? And then I've got our brand name is Sailmates, like soulmates, but sailmates.org. And I have a Sailmates Facebook page, but everybody likes my personal page better than my Sailmates page. So I have like 400 people on my Sailmate page. I tell everybody, go to Sailmates on Facebook. But no, they come find me, and because I think I tell more stories and like get into the the other things, and they're like, yeah, that's much more interesting than just seeing her daily pictures and her daily descriptions and her little videos. And like, for instance, we just took a rented these little moped bike things, motorcycle things, and went around the island, and there's these hairpin turns, and it was terrifying. And like at one point it was so steep I had to get off, and he had to drive up without me, and there's like wild horses all over the island, and I'm going up to all these wild horses and stuff, and it's incredible. So I make like little videos and stuff of this, and I put them together, but I've had no success just making it a cellmate thing. They just all want to come and get the inside stuff on my other page. So I have that. And then I have an author website, AlisonGieschen.com. And there, all my books are there. And when my books are coming out, and stories behind the stories. So for instance, the 7 that I just wrote, every character and their horse has a story behind the story. So it tells why I pick that person or that location and the history of the breed of horse, which is really cool, because here I am on these islands, and I'm meeting these horses that are just look so different than all the horses in the other countries we've been to. And I know the story now of their ancestors. They came on Spanish ships, and the ships were actually like crashed on the shores, and these horses swam to shore and started these, little colonies of these Spanish horses, and there are a bunch of different mixed breeds and stuff. And I was like, I know your story of your relatives. I gotta pet you, And but anyway, I forgot where I was going with this. I get distracted sometimes. Sorry. So I have the stories behind the stories of my book, The 7, of all the characters and all the horses and the histories and stuff, which is really cool. And my upcoming books and all that. And like I said, I have an Instagram page, so you can probably find me on social media pretty easily with just my name.
Okay, good.
Oh, and then my blog. My blog, that's where I was going.
Right.
My sailmates.org. It's .org because I didn't want to pay for the .com. It was really expensive. It's like $800, so I picked the .org. But I do blogs, and I also include my photos and in the full story of everything on my blog site.
Cool.
All right, that's beautiful stuff. So we have a couple of things that we do at the end of every show. First one is just what we did right there, to have you tell people how to reach you, how to find your stuff, and so forth. So thank you for sharing all that. Second is I go to Jody Lynn next, and this is one of my favorite parts of the show because she always has this really great perspective.
Okay.
I think it's going to be extra special perspective today because this one's juiced you. I mean, I'm watching your face, Jody Lynn. I don't know if you noticed, I kept coming to you a lot because you were really juiced up on this one. So I'm really curious to hear what you're going to say. How are you going to tie it all together?
No, Alison, you don't need to be scared.
All right, hold on. Let me take a drink of water. All right, I'm ready. Bring it on.
Oh man, our conversation today, it did juice me, as you said, Walt. It filled me with life and excitement. And here's the reason why. And I hope that other people connect to this as well. Whether you can see yourself actually getting on a boat and going around the world, or if that's ever going to be something for you, what gets me excited, what fills me up, and throughout this conversation with you today, Alison, is just the potential that is out there for all of us to have a dream when you're 9 years old or when you're 25 or you're 55. It really doesn't matter. But having a dream, having a passion in life, and you're living proof, Alison, you and your husband, of taking that leap, not letting fear stop you, moving through the tough, the hard, the messy, and finding the beautiful every place you are and in every moment that you come to. So thank you for that reminder, whether it's sailing or it's living your life to the fullest. We've only got one. So thank you for the reminder to go after our dreams and follow our passions.
You can see why I do this, right?
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're great too. I mean, you're both great. You're great together because you have a very different styles and personalities and perspectives. And I love both of your perspectives. You're the one that says, yeah, that's great. I don't want to do it. And she's the one that says, yeah, this is something I could do. So, and I appreciate both perspectives on that.
And we're enjoying it too, because quite honestly, we're very much on the same wavelength on almost anything. So having something where we have a completely different take is actually novel. It's wonderful. It's exciting.
Oh, okay. Glad I could help.
Yeah. Well, that leads me to the final thing that I like to do at the end of every episode, because now that we live in the 21st century, which you've been able to discover in the middle of the French Polynesians of all places, the technology has made it possible for you to join us today. We're very grateful for that. But it's also how you're able to share your story and show people all those wonderful, beautiful videos and photos that they love so much, and perhaps even inspire one or two to consider following a similar dream of their own, or even a different dream, but something that they've been thinking about for some time. You're sharing in that way, and you're taking advantage of the modern technologies to do that. One of the things that goes along with those modern technologies is that because we now have these services and platforms available to us to be able to share our stories, to share what we've gone through and what we learned and so forth, we're reaching people that we don't even know. I mean, there are people who listen to this episode, literally hundreds of people listen to this episode who I have no idea who they are. I've met a few of them. One actually has become a co-host recently, but not recently, within the last 5 years. But yeah, I mean, most of the time we're talking to people that we don't even know who they are, and we're touching them in ways we don't even know about. And that's when I realized there's a little gap here that needs to be covered, because we don't get credit for that. So Alison, on behalf of those people you've never met and never seen, never will meet, never will see, who you've been helping just by sharing your story, sharing your videos, sharing your photos, and affecting in ways you didn't even know about, on their behalf, thank you for what you're doing, because you're making a difference in this world.
Thank you. And I appreciate what you do too, because without you, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah. So there we go.
With you.
So thank you very much. Thank you to our podcast listeners everywhere. We will see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.